Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the weekend Cabral House Calls. Glad to be here with you, answering our community's questions on wellness, weight loss, anti-aging, mindset, motivation, health coaching, you name it. What I try to do is share with you my perspective, what I've seen over the past couple decades, and how we've been able to help many hundreds of thousands of people from around the world. So excited, as always, to be able to read all of the questions that come in. The nice thing is that these are non-scripted, that they've come in really from real people all around the world over the past couple of weeks and typically months. We usually are about 8 weeks or so behind. I'll share with you where we're at in just a moment. But again, just a moment to thank you for being a part of this community. We do appreciate you and excited that you can tune into the show and really be a part of this movement. We are trying to share the education, share the knowledge that we've accumulated, my team and I, over the years. And what I hope to do is have you do the same. So we all learn, we all accumulate, we all kind of test out, try out, and then hopefully we share what's successful in our life with others. That's really what it's all about. So without further ado, let's answer some questions for the day. And all questions, if you want to read along, are at stephencabral.com/1506. Today's show will be at stephencabral.com/1506. And the first question's from Megan, and it was written in on January 13th. So now we are at March 21st. So that looks like we are about 9 weeks back in the queue. All right, but we're always catching up. All right, Megan's up first. Hi, Dr. Cabral. I have a friend who says she has a lot of gallstones and tried to find a podcast on this, but could not find any ways to treat them naturally. Would you be able to offer some light on this topic? And if it's possible to get rid of them naturally, thank you for everything you do. Okay, well, we have to be careful because if we're talking about gallstones and we're talking about kidney stones and we're talking about all those things, there are natural ways to rebalance the body so that those can't occur. Now, that's what we help with, okay? Because we can't cure or treat disease-based states. But there's a podcast that if you go to stephencabral.com, why don't I do this? I'm going to do it with you. So we'll go to stephencabral.com/podcasts. There's a little search box. And inside that search box, we're going to type in liver cleanse. Or we can type in gallbladder cleanse too. That should work. And if we go way back, let's see where it is. And it's how to do a liver and gallbladder cleanse. And that's episode 206. Way back in the day, right? Way back in the day. Well, tell your friend there is a one-page cheat sheet on exactly how to do it. And that one is an ancient Ayurvedic way to do it. It was written by Andrea Moritz in the book called The Amazing and Liver Gallbladder Cleanse. And I gave you a one-page cheat sheet on that. All right. So check that out and that will certainly help. All right. Ryan is up next. But again, after that, I absolutely recommend then also doing a functional medicine detox and doing other things as well, potentially coffee enemas. But if she hasn't read The Rain Barrel Effect, you need to know how you got here in the first place, right? So definitely recommend that as well. Ryan says, what are your thoughts on Joe Dispenza's work in meditations? Do you practice anything similar in terms of connecting to the quantum field? Have you seen some of these spontaneous healings that seemingly take place during some of his retreats in your own experience with clients? From what I can understand, if you can truly feel the feeling of your healthy future self, the autonomic nervous system can't tell the difference and begins to respond as if you were healthy. Super interesting stuff. So Ryan, I've actually recommended Dr. Joe Dispenza's work before. So let's see if we can find one of his books that I've recommended before on the podcast. And let's see if it was You Are the Placebo. Let's see here. Dr. Joe Dispenza. I recommended him on episode 1078. So remember, again, I'm happy to answer these questions. I honestly am. Like, I never want you to think that I'm not. I am happy to answer these questions. I love hearing from our community. But again, if you just type in Joe Dispenza at StephenCabral.com/podcasts, I know there's a lot of podcasts, but you'll be able to find that one. That was on episode 1078. And I even put in a little video there as well. So do I believe in this though? Yes. And in connecting the quantum field, yes. And again, I talk about this on the Mindset and Motivation Mondays. Ryan, so you're exactly right. There's one piece that's critical that you missed in the understanding of this. And a lot of people do this. Let me quote it exactly. From what I can understand, if you can truly feel the feeling of your healthy future self, the autonomic nervous system can't tell the difference. Here's the thing. It's slight, but it makes all the difference in the world. Because you cannot actually get the spontaneous healing if you're believing it happens in the future. This is critical. I'll talk about this more on a Mindset and Motivation Monday, where I typically talk about these topics. Here's the deal. You need to believe it's already happened. So if you start to read, Dr. Joe Dispenza is making a lot of this information more popular and definitely bringing it up to the mainstream with like the labs that he works with and all of that. But I can assure you, this has been around, well, since the yogic days. These are yogic-based practices. You have to feel the feeling that it's already been done. So not in the future, that it's already been done. And if you can truly feel that, and you can truly believe it, saying has nothing to do with it. You can say it all day long. That's why some people's visions come true, right? Some people's do and some people don't. Why? It's at a subconscious level. Do you really believe? And is there no discord with that? Because if you do, well, I believe then we tap into something pretty special. I'll talk about more about that in the future. For the most part, take some time, take some work. And that's why for me, I love to work on what we know works with the de-stress protocol. But also, if we can start to tap into this quantum field, oh, I'm all about it. By all means, I'm about this for sure. And more of my work in the future will connect the two. Because if you can do both, well, there we go. Oh, another question from Ryan. When it comes to extended fasts, I see two schools of thought. One, which I have learned through your teachings, is that it should be fasting on a day you don't have to do a lot, relaxed, chill out day. I have often seen the opposite recommendation too, where it is recommended to stay busy with your day such that you're not thinking about it too much and that time flies. I know one can be busy and still relax, but probably not for most people. Would it be best perhaps for beginners to stay busy, and once you find fasting easier, you try to focus on more of a relaxed day? Ryan, this is a great question. So, the truth is this, it doesn't matter if you're busy or not. So I'm busy on my Mondays when I fast. I'm super busy, like from start to finish. What matters is, are you stressed? Are you raising cortisol levels? Are you raising adrenaline levels? Are you boosting aldosterone levels? Because if you do, and you're stressed, you're not really going to be in a fasted state. Well, that's one. The other is you might start tapping into more muscle tissue, which we don't want, right? So busy but relaxed, right? Because not a lot of people can stay in like that state of meditation for the day. Now, if you can just relax for the day and you can do some self-care, do a massage, do a sauna, some maybe light cardio if you want, go for a walk, get outside, get a little sun. Sure, all of that's good. So one, it depends on the person, for sure. The other, it depends on how good at controlling stress. And the other, it just depends on what are your needs. Like if you're in pretty good health, you can actually be stressed and fast that day. It's not the best thing in the world, but you'll be fine. And some people actually get benefit of fasting and exercise at the same time. Their body's healthy though. It's okay for caveat. Body's healthy and it will actually start to potentially improve mitochondria. Now, you do that with someone with chronic fatigue, low thyroid, myalgic encephalitis, well, you're only going to push them deeper into more of a stressed and sick-based state. So again, it's always about the person. Thank you, Ryan. Emily's up next. Hi, Dr. Cabral. Dr. Cabral did a podcast with A Faster Way, and a friend and I are debating about something he said as it was a bit contradictory. We bought the glucose meter to see if our morning coffee broke our fast, as he suggested, and he gave 2 responses to testing the results while fasting. If your blood sugar stays under 100 30 minutes after drinking coffee, then you're still in a fasted state. If your glucose readings before and after coffee are different, then you are no longer in your fasted state. The question is, if your blood sugar spikes with coffee 10 to 20 points, but you're still under 100, are you in a fast? I'm a coach with A Faster Way to Fat Loss, and this has confused quite a few of us that listen to the podcast. Just hoping for some clarification. Thanks. Okay, sure, happy to further explain this. I did a whole podcast on it, though. I know I did an interview on the Faster Way with Amanda, but that was only a 5-minute conversation. I did a 25-minute conversation on this exact topic on my podcast. So let me link that up. Okay, so if you go to stevencabral.com/podcasts, you can check out some podcasts on fasting, and that is episode 397, 613, 1194, and 1397. Okay, so that all the shows we have now about an hour and a half of in-depth knowledge on fasting and drinking coffee in the morning. So again, let's say you wake up in the morning, because I can't give you an exact answer, Emily, because I don't know what your blood sugar was. Let's say you wake up in the morning and your blood sugar was 70 and then it got to an 80. Totally fine. No big deal. That's not an issue. If it went from an 85 to a 95, not a good thing. If it went from an 80 to 100, not a good thing. You're really pushing the nervous system at that point, and you can see that you brought quite a bit of glucose into the body. Now, partially it's going to happen with part of the cortisol awakening response, but that's already happened within 30 minutes of waking. So if you wait an hour or so and then you do your coffee and it jumps another 20 points, well, that's a pretty good stress on the body. So, but again, if you keep it under 100, keep it under 95 for the most part, then that's actually pretty good. So again, it depends like this. Are you meeting your weight loss goals? Does it also accelerate your heart rate? Does it make you anxious in the morning? Because if it doesn't, then you should be fine. Like if you're meeting your weight loss goals, it doesn't give you anxiety, it's not causing an accelerated heart rate, then the coffee's fine. I'm not against coffee. I drink coffee. Like I'm not against it at all. Do I have it every day? Not necessarily. When I get a small cup, do I finish it? Not usually. But again, like I'm not against it if it's for the right person, right? So I'm not against caffeine and I'm not against coffee. I just want to make sure that everyone's aware. Again, and this is super important. People hear things sometimes through their dogma. And I'm not saying, Emily, this is you. But when I talk about red meat, I mean, all the people who want to eat red meat get all up in arms. But listen, like I'm just sharing with you what happens as a physiological response to eating these foods and drinking this type of coffee for some people. Not everyone, but believe me, it does happen. And it actually shows up in a clinical practice. So that's all. I just want to share that with you, Emily. And the next thing, the best thing that you could do is just actually run a stress, mood, and metabolism test. See if those cortisol levels jump in the morning. See if your thyroid is optimal. And if so, then you're good. Everything's good. All right. Ashley's up next. Hi, I'm currently on day 3 of the detox, and I'm on the road to healing my Hashimoto's. I'm also literally just finished reading your book. Thank you for your work and giving back to the world in a meaningful way. I hope to do the same. I'm wondering why rice is the protein of choice in the detox shake when the understanding is that rice is also high in arsenic. I've been avoiding rice like the plague, other than some black rice on occasion. It came down to trusting you, faith, and have also exhausted every avenue with long-term improvement, so I'm here in the detox protocol. I'm really hoping this approach helps me with my Hashimoto's and gut health. If you have additional suggestions, that would be wonderful. I appreciate you and how you share your knowledge. Thank you and have a wonderful day, Ashley. Ashley, thank you very much for the kind words. Super excited you are doing the functional medicine detox and that you've read The Rain Barrel Effect. So again, I don't want people to blindly trust me. I don't want people to just say, okay, then that's fine, everything's good. But the truth is that you have to understand is that this is my life's work. This is close to 1 million pages of reading. It was over like 700,000 last time I checked. It is 25 years or so, over 300,000 client appointments. I mean, this is what I do. This is everything that I do. Am I infallible? Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. Have I been talking a mile a minute on a podcast and probably misspoke at some point? Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I mean, just in our last question, I didn't explain it well enough, so Emily had questions, right? So there is obviously a need to ask these questions, but do understand that I've looked into all of this. I mean, really have. And here's the reason why. My parents use this daily nutritional support shake. I use the daily nutritional support shake. I put a half a scoop in my daughter's smoothie or smoothie bowls. So we use this. I mean, like everybody uses this. 9 out of 10 people in our private practice, more than that, 9.9 out of 10 people in our private practice use the daily nutritional support. So here's behind the scenes. It's about 80% pea protein and about 20% rice. We do that to get a better amino acid profile. So we really make up a complete protein. There's even a little bit of hemp protein in there. Now, as for the arsenic, well, our products are tested for purity and potency. That means we are testing for heavy metals and we're testing for potency. I also want to share with you something else, is that not all rice is high in arsenic. And again, we lab test for this. So Ashley, if you're worried, run the complete heavy metal toxicity test or run the minerals and metals test, the hair tissue mineral analysis. Either one. Like, that's totally great. And it will show you if you're high in arsenic. Now, I did a podcast on arsenic. Believe it or not, I've done podcasts on all of these things. So the theme of today is go to stevencabral.com/podcast and type in your keyword. All right, so let's check this out. Arsenic was mentioned on 1382, 1491, 1631. It was mentioned on 1010, 1204. And let's also look up some rice brands. I've given you brands of rice that have been tested for heavy metals. All right, let's check those out. All right, well, I'm just going to give you the brand. So Lundberg, is a brand that's tested low in arsenic, and so is Lotus. The Lotus brand of rice is low in arsenic as well. And remember, it's contamination of water with the rice, right? So the rice itself, yes, there can be arsenic in the soil, but it's really these contaminated base rice that's the issue. So hopefully that helps. And I think I answered all of those questions. Many shows on Hashimoto's, many shows, again, on running that stress, mood, and metabolism test, the thyroid adrenal hormone, to be able to get your customized plan as well. Super important. But yes, many shows at Hashimoto's at stevencabral.com/podcast. And actually what you can do is on the new podcast page that we developed for 2020, you can actually just scroll through those little graphics at the top, and you can click on one of the graphics that says Thyroid Healing Solutions. And I think that there's like maybe 20 podcasts on healing your thyroid. So check that out. All right, Tiffany's up next. Tiffany says, I'm sure you get these emails all the time, but I need your help from my 15-year-old nephew. I listened to your podcast and thought you could help. He is all of a sudden experiencing pain in the chest and stomach and weakness in the legs. He can't walk down the hall sometimes at school without the support from a wall. In fatigue, they have gone to hospitals and all tests come back clear. They love in Tennessee. I don't know what that means. We just do not know where to go next. Could you possibly give us some direction? My nephew is usually fun and outgoing, but doctors just keep telling us there's nothing wrong. Thank you. Tiffany, feel for you. I mean, there's nothing worse, I've been there, than being told there's nothing wrong with you, yet you clearly can barely walk, right? And you're super fatigued. So experiencing chest pain and stomach pain and weakness in the legs. The first thing that comes to mind to me is an H. pylori infection. It's the first thing that comes to mind. And it's super, super common. Now, you can ask your doctor to run a stool test. The blood test is okay. The breath test is not great. Run an H. pylori stool test. And let's see if we find Helicobacter pylori. I talk about this on, let's see the podcast. You can learn more about it. It is on 1495. So if you go to stevencabral.com/1495, you will actually find the podcast on the 4 different gut-based issues. That, potentially an ulcer, which would be much more rare, but you never know because he could be on medications that I don't know about. The fatigue at 15 years old could be from mono. The chest pain and stomach pain. He might have a swollen spleen. He may have gotten mono. So obviously I don't know anything. I'm just grasping at straws, but this is very common. This is radiating pain through the, is it the phrenic nerve? It's just, again, all these things are going through my mind right now. Okay, so here's what can happen. Pancreatitis, which is a little different, okay? There's pancreatitis, and there is a swollen spleen. I'm leaning towards the spleen, and here's why. If your nephew got Epstein-Barr virus, mononucleosis, basically one and the same, what happens is a week or two after that, he can start to feel the symptoms of a swollen spleen. Now, a swollen spleen doesn't show too much except for pain. What it feels like in the stomach area, it's actually under the lower left ribs. Sometimes it feels like it's in the kidney, but it's actually referred pain. And mainly it happens after meals. And it happens because as your stomach starts to fill, well, it presses up against this swollen spleen, which has just been basically pumping out blood cells, white blood cells, B cells actually, to help fight viruses. And the pain can radiate up between that left shoulder blade and shoulder as well. And that could be the chest pains that he's feeling. I don't know, but it would explain the fatigue. It would explain the stomach and chest pain. So I would at least explore that. And if he has that, he has to be careful because a swollen spleen can rupture if he were to get hit in sports or exercising or anything like that. Now, the nice thing is typically with rest, using even other things like blackstrap molasses and making sure that the infections are gone, you can begin to return the swollen spleen back to normal. And typically, it does not need to be removed in the vast majority of cases, like 95+%. So again, I can't give you medical advice, but that's what came to mind. So hopefully that was helpful. Thank you, Tiffany, for writing in. I do hope that your nephew gets the respect he deserves and he gets the help that he deserves as well. Thank you, everyone, so much for tuning into today's show. I'm excited to be able to answer more of our community's questions tomorrow. Hopefully this was helpful, and if it was, please do feel free to share this episode with anyone you believe it could serve. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.